Spider-Man! Yo, it's been a little bit. I really needed to take some time away and just spend the last weekend hanging out with my wife. The internet can be a terrible place sometimes, and truthfully, within the first 2 minutes going back onto Twitter on Monday, I was already starting to feel low-level anxiety.
Do your job!
But I'm back now with a new old review. Here's a thing that might be true of a lot of you. I came to love many comics characters through, not the comics, but through cartoons in the 90s, like the X-Men and Spider-Man. And because of those cartoons, I developed a love of certain characters, such as Spider-Man. For a long time, Spider-Man and Hulk were tied for second favorite superhero, even though I know next to nothing about their adventures. Full disclosure, I don't think I've ever read a full Spider-Man story in my life, other than the first trade from the Ultimate Spider-Man line, but I really don't think that counts, because that's fake Spider-Man. Side note, let's be real here for a second, I'm actually really starting to hate how many people there are now that claim to be Spider-Man. It's kind of infuriating, actually. But I had so many random Spider-Man issues growing up, but sadly, before I moved across the country, I traded in a bunch of my comics, never thinking that one day I would need them for a channel called Random BackIssue Comics. Anyway, I love Spider-Man, but have little to no experience with his adventures, as I said. Same goes for the Hulk, for that matter. The only comics I've read of the Hulk, and the only story I've ever heard being worth anything, were Prelude to Planet Hulk, and World War Hulk, which honestly could have had a better ending. So as an example of the few Spider-Man issues that I actually held on to, we have this, Spider-Man, the Savage Land Saga. It collects Sensational Spider-Man 13, 14, and 15, and man, I was just not feeling this one.
So close!
That might be why it's taking me a bit longer to get this review out. You ever see a comic that has all the right boxes checked off, but then you read it and it just feels like something is missing? Check off the boxes with me. Spider-Man, yes. Dinosaurs, yes. Cave or jungle people, hell yes. But still felt like it was missing something. To start,
showtime!
Here's our list of responsible parties. When I started reading this, I could not for the life of me think of why the name Mike Waringo was so familiar. Then after a few days, I remembered the drama with Mike S. Miller drawing his character over top of an old Waringo throwaway. Was it last year? Earlier in the year? I don't know, the internet is full of nonsense. Anyway, this review is going to be a little rough because it kind of just feels like 3 filler issues. I start to write the review and immediately I'm like, oh look, my desk is full of toys. So let's fly through this then. 1-page prologue. Some water is dripping into this cave and wakes up this bird monster. End of prologue.
One for JJ.
J. Jonah Jameson is telling Peter Parker that he's off to the Savage Land to cover a story. Peter tells him, no way! Hard cut to Peter looking miserable. You get the explanation from the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Chris Townsend, that there's a hole in the ozone layer right above the Savage Land and it's melting the ice all around the place. Savage Land! Well, most of the Savage Land. At least part of the Savage Land. You'd be able to see more of it if it wasn't a double-page spread crammed into a trade. But I won't go over that again. They step into the command center and you get another explanation that S.H.I.E.L.D. is working with the Roxxon Corporation to reverse the effects of the polar melting and to help save the Savage Land. Introduction to Dr. Gerald Roth, the man in charge representing the Roxxon Corporation. A tour of the facility begins and Spider-Man immediately bounces his way out of there. Don't worry, nobody in this story asks why they have one less news reporter with them or how Spider-Man happened to show up on the island at the same time. He's off! To find the man that calls the Savage Land home. Kazar! Or is it Kazar or Kuzar? Kuzar? I'm calling him Kazar. He stumbles across a village in panic. A Styracosaurus is on the loose, banging into village huts, and Kazar dives in to save a lost child just in time. Kazar returns the kid to her mother and talks to this villager who's asking for an update. He tells him that the dam on the mountain lake is near to bursting from the ice melting, and that when it goes, the village will be destroyed. They'll have to hurry if they want to get everyone to safety, and Kazar points out that they're getting a little more help with Spidey being there, and they're glad to have him. 1-page interlude! One of several. In the Bermuda Triangle on Monster Island, strange goings-on are happening. Besides, you know, monsters. The island trembles and shakes, and its inhabitants immediately hightail it out of there as a bird-like creature appears. Rah! Interlude over. Meanwhile, back at the Savage Land, the ice around the Savage Land continues to melt, and Dr. Roth says there's no way for the refrigeration units to keep up with the rate at which the glaciers are melting. If the geography is a little weird, don't worry, there's a map later, and I'll address that in a complaint that I have. As the ice drips away, another creature is slowly uncovered. Stegron!
Spider sense is tingling.
Back at the village, I'm not exactly sure why his spidey sense is going off, but 2 SHIELD agents arrive telling Kazar that the timeline for getting people out has moved up from a few days to a few hours to 1 hour. Maybe that's what the spidey sense was for. It's a mad dash to get these people across another double-page spread in a frantic montage. Spidey hauls up a lift of goats when one of the animals plummets from the platform. A quick shot from his web shooter and he catches the dumb creature, but now he's lost his footing and has no way of hauling the rest of the passengers up. Spider-Man is losing it when Kazar jumps in and lends a hand, gently scolding the webhead about it being okay to call for backup now and then. Soon, in a hut occupied by the wife of Kazar, Kazar's wife, Shanna. I don't know much about Shanna, other than I have an action figure of her, and they do not make enough Cave Girl, Jungle Girl action figures. She's looking after a sick girl who has malaria. Suddenly, horror! The dam gives way and water comes rushing in. That's my finger. Kazar grabs a leper as they dash through the jungle with their pet Sabretooth. Spider-Man grabs Shanna. Hey! And he swings her to safety. Really, if Spider-Man leaves this adventure and doesn't take a Jungle Girl outfit back with him to Mary Jane, something's seriously wrong. Spidey snags Kazar in the nick of time and then gently chides him about it being okay to ask for help sometimes. I love when they make Spidey's eyes squint. You probably do too. There's another meeting and boom, 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 boom. Dr. Gerald Roth is a bad guy as his minion informs him that the melting procedure has tripled its output. Soon all the dams will burst and flood the Savage Land. Another interlude, and monsters are fleeing Monster Isle as the chicken creature chases them out. Rawr! What could you possibly add to the story to sweeten the deal with Spider-Man, dinosaurs, and cave people? Mother***ing Hulk! Nearby, the Hulk is knocking out the monsters as they flee the island and invade his personal hideaway. He leaps to Monster Isle to figure out what's going on and finds, a bird monster. Crawl! Back in the Savage Land, we start part 2 as the water rises. The trio wonder about their options when a village elder calls them over, translated by Ralph. Ralph is amusing to me, always chimes in to let the reader know what's going on, and with an appropriately styled comment. The elder tells a tale of an ancient protector of the Savage Land, a being that lives in the ice above. He is called Chitlock, or Nakra, or Chicken Cow. Did he just say chicken cow? Shh. Bigger than the dinosaurs, it can fly and stab with its tail. The great chicken cow will rise from the earth as a protector and save the Savage Land. Basically, he's telling them they're all wasting their time because the problem will fix itself. The brief respite comes to an end as an old woman refuses to leave her home and Spidey and Kazar are off to help. Woo! Stegosaurus is the bestesaurus! Kazar gets the animals and the old woman says she won't leave without her baby. Dark.
What is Spider-Man really thinking?
I'm not sure what else is going on in the Marvel Universe at this time, but Spidey has a moment. Another interlude, and Hulk gets punched in the face. Quickly, he's back on his feet and diving on top of the chicken cow. The stabbing tail slashes at him, even though it doesn't really make sense. But whammo! When I read the comics, I don't think I really pay enough attention to the sound effects. Whammo is delightfully silly. The chicken cow plunges into the depths of the earth as Hulk jumps in after him. Meanwhile, Spidey and the gang check out a power station for the refrigeration units. I always like this drawing of Shanna. Inside, they discover that the station isn't trying to cool the ice around the Savage Land, it's trying to melt it. But we already knew that. Roxxon never had any interest in saving the Savage Land. They were out to flood it because it's against the law to drill there. But if there is no Savage Land, they could take all that sweet, sweet dinosaur crude. Actually, I think I heard one time that oil isn't actually from dinosaurs. I'm not sure anymore. In fact, they're primed to do so. This pisses Kazar and Shanna right off. Meanwhile, Stegron speaks with long, drawn-out S sounds that make my brain feel weird trying to process while reading. He sees men with their machines, and this pisses Stegron right off. Ooh, Ralph's being funny again. Aha! Look! This is the geography of the Savage Land, located in Antarctica at the bottom of the world, in a basin surrounded by ice where presumably the chicken cow lives.
I don't believe what you're telling me.
Why the hell did the chicken cow go to Monster Isle? Anyone got an answer to that? Okay, this is my biggest problem with this story. Moving on. I'm just gonna say it. If a large portion of the people you work with are dressed like this, you're working for an evil organization. This guy is practically a Hydra agent.
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
Anyway, he gives the doc an update and tells him the problem at the relay station is being dealt with. Another interlude, and Hulk and Chicken Cow are still duking it out in the tunnels that run under Monster Isle throughout the world. Back at the power station, a group of Bronx and thugs get the drop on our heroes, and if you don't mind, I'm going to switch to the one issue I have from this series. It's a lot easier to get pictures from the floppies than it is from the trades. You may notice a color shift, but really it's the difference between being able to see a double-page spread like this compared to this. Otherwise, I'd have to just show you the rest of the image printed in reverse in the back of the book, so we're switching for convenience. Suddenly, Stegron is on the scene with a band of mentally controlled dinosaurs. I love Stegron. I really need to look up what else he's been in. You have to admire, one, that he's a saurian-type creature, which is always appreciated, and two, he's part Stegosaurus, and we've already established that Stegosaurus is the bestasaurus. Stegron beats a dude with his tail and our heroes jump into action. Kazar is still dealing with the rage of people trying to destroy his home, as Spider-Man reasons they don't have time to be fighting these guys. Kazar tells him to go get Stegron on their side, while they knock some sense into these thugs. Spidey does his best to avoid Stegron's tail and manages to convince the Beastman, while Kazar tears apart a power suit with his bare hands. Hey Goosebumps! You know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I swear I'm the only person that didn't give a crap about this. I honestly always thought they were written for girls. And come on, after scary stories to tell in the dark, how do you even compete? But I did enjoy the first movie with Jack Black in a fun, dumb kind of way. Rumbling, and they assume the floods are coming when choom! Hulk blasts Chicken Cow out of the ground and plants one on him that puts him down for good. Stegron sends in his band of T-Rexes to dogpile the beast. I forget the term they use in comics when they just duplicate the previous frame. If you know it, let me know in the comments. Spider-Man decides he has a plan and that he's going to need everybody's help. Everybody. To which the Hulk replies, "Rub a lamp, jerk?" I have no idea why he says that. A genie reference? I don't know. Back at headquarters, Dr. Gerald Roth is losing his shit over losing a power station, and Agent Townsend looks slightly concerned finally. He gives orders to fix it when Kazar bursts through the door with a Triceratops. He throws the doc away and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents finally start doing something. Seriously, I don't know much about Marvel, but I was under the impression that S.H.I.E.L.D. was pretty on the game and would know what crap was going on before anyone else did. Maybe those terrible movies lied to me. Townsend apologizes and asks what he can do, and Kazar tells him it's already being taken care of. Kawookie crisp. Dean Yeagle, you're the best. Stegron commands his dinosaur soldiers to destroy the power station. Hey, that sounds kind of awesome. While Spidey and Hulk take care of another. I like that he's just letting Hulk do all the work. Proving these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are utterly incompetent, somehow Dr. Gerald Roth has slipped away and is calling his superiors to help bail him out. This shadowy dude, whom I would love to know if they ever reveal his identity somewhere, tells them they're pinning it all on the Doctor and severs the connection with him. Dr. Roth goes full scorched earth mode and says he's going to blow the dams with the explosives he placed, as you do when starting any big project. I know when we moved into this apartment, I made it a point to wire the place to blow, you know, in case. Our heroes realize that Dr. Roth has blown the dams, and this page is so 90s it makes me want to puke with nostalgia. It's great. The water rushes down. Oh, that's depressing. I always thought this was a great image too. Our heroes hold out hope that Spidey's plan will work. Mile High Comics. They seem to be in the news lately. Their eBay store is actually where I end up getting a lot of back issues from nowadays. A great swirling vortex of water crashes down into the giant holes made by Hulk and Chicken Cow's fight. Just then, the previously mentioned incompetent S.H.I.E.L.D. agent rushes over, exclaiming that Roth has escaped. Kazar ominously tells them to let him go. Roth dashes through the jungle. Joe Kubert School. Dave's Comics. Wonder if they're still around. And slams into Chicken Cow. Squirrel! Later, Stegron gives his "We'll always be enemies" speech, and Kazar tells Spider-Man thank you for pulling it all off, when the old village elder, Redundant, tells them that it was the Chicken Cow that saved everyone and protected them from disaster. Spidey asks for a translation, and Kazar lies. The webbed whipping end. I feel like they wanted to put Hulk in this story, and the only way they could reason to do that was to have Chicken Cow scare all the monsters to his hideaway and then fight them back to the Savage Land. To say the writing is a little questionable, I don't think is out of line. But did the Chicken Cow really save the day in the end? Without him fighting the Hulk back to the Savage Land, they never would have had the tunnels for the water to run into. Maybe my one big problem with this story was really the solution all along. Our hilarious friend Ralph was the editor. There's a preview for Cable. Man, I used to love art like this. Back in the day, my comic artist heroes were always the guys that drew in what I call cartoon realism, copyright trademark TM. Guys like Humberto Ramos and Carlos Maglia. When Ed McGuinness showed up for the first time with Superman, my brain melted. This comic is along the same lines as that, and it's a lot of fun to look at. Mike Waringo did a great job. I'm gonna have to try and find out what this animated Hulk series looked like. Kazar #1. Wonder if that's any good. I've heard Comics Matter suggest that a comic doesn't have to blow you away, it just has to be good. And I guess you could fit it into that category. For the most part, it was competently written and I liked the artwork. I'm certain that back in the day, before I had any kind of my own style, I drooled over Waringo's. At the end of it though, I can't help thinking that I wanted something a little more. It feels like something's missing, like I said way back at the beginning of this review. Maybe I needed more dino attacks or something, but that really wasn't the point of the story. With that, I have no idea why these 3 issues were deemed worthy enough of collecting into one complete volume. Maybe it was celebrating the art style, maybe the novelty of everything that was crossing over. The world may never know. It's probably worth reading just for seeing Spider-Man say, "Chicken cow?" Is there anything that I learned while reading this comic that I can apply to my own comic? Probably just to use it as a study aid to better understand how to handle certain angles of a character in the cartoon realism, copyright trademark, TM style. That's it, guys. I will do my best to be back here sooner than next time. And that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends, subscribe, like, share, email, Twitter, stuff. Okay, bye.
Oh, man! Wow! You know, Spidey, I've always wanted to experience real web-slinging.
And I've always wanted to be appreciated as a real hero. It seems you've made me into one. Thanks.
Hey, don't mention it.